Well, hello, and welcome to Opal City Confidential, a Starman podcast. And I am joined by Brent again, and we're going to cover the reboot Starboy. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. It's summer here in Australia, so life's pretty good. And we've got a 4-day weekend, so it's
Oh,
even better. So
okay.
that's nice.
No, it is autumn going into it's autumn here, which it's cooling down, which is nice. But where I
Sweet.
live, we'll have a couple more hot days. We're,
Yeah, nice. No, it's actually spring here. It's not really summer. It just
yeah.
feels like summer. It's been warm.
Yeah.
So,
What's the variation of your seasons?
um, we get 4 seasons in Melbourne, where I'm
Okay,
from. So
okay.
it's pretty good. It's not a tropical part of the country.
Yeah.
So
We get about 3.5. It depends on the winter. Sometimes it's nothing, and sometimes it's tons of snow. So, but we're going to be covering the reboot Superboy, Superboy,
Starboy.
Starboy. I was just venting to Brent about Jonathan Kent. I'm a big fan of younger version. But we're covering the reboot Starboy, who, as Brent pointed out before we started, there was more to him than I remembered. I did a quick kind of scan about a week ago and have not had a chance to go back to look. Um, I like this version of Starboy overall. I want to start with that because I'm not as we progress further away from the original Starboy, other than the original Starboy coming back. I found the other ones not as I found those legions less like they're so much different than the other legions to me that
Well, yeah,
it's
they
like
they
they're a
kind
whole
of
new.
change over time. It's like
Yeah,
it's a bit like they move further and further away from the original. But I think this Starboy has really kept the essence of the original. And
yeah.
like we're calling it reboot, but this is probably, DC would probably like us to call it the post zero hour DCU. And so this sort of continuity starts after 0 hour. And last time we caught up, Ross, we were looking at the SW6 Starboy merging with the classic Thom Kallor at the, as time was decaying around them, and the universe reset after a fade to white. And I didn't remember this, but when I went back and did my research recently, I discovered that he appears all the way back in Legionnaires Zero. So his first appearance is actually the very first issue of the reboot, and but it's not a very significant appearance, and we don't see him again for quite a while. His first appearance, he and Atmos and Kid Quantum One, who was a character sort of wedged into the 5 years later storyline, are all from the planet Xanthu. And they're sort of cheering the three of them on as their planetary champion sort of applicants. And interestingly, we're all expecting Starboy is going to be chosen to go and join the Legion, but they don't. They put him aside and Atmos, our two Legionnaires from Xanthu, and they choose Kid Quantum.
The first
And
King
so
Quantum, correct?
the
Yeah,
first Kid Quantum,
yeah,
James Cullen. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Who was just basically a sacrificial lamb to bring in.
well, yes, because he dies only a few issues later on his very first Legion mission. He's killed by a giant spider,
Yeah.
and then it's quite a while later. It's about 14 issues later in Legion Volume 4, number 76, that Starboy is sent through to replace him. And he kind of arrives. He's not really inducted. He and I don't know if you know the character Gates Ross. He's sort
Yeah,
of a
I love Gates.
interpete sort of character, a bit morose, a bit of a communist, and
Yeah.
he teleports. So he and Gates join at the same time, and he's given a pretty hard time by the post 0 hour colossal boy who's called Leviathan. He gives him a bit of a hard time, and that's one of the dynamics of his relationships in this Legion is he's sort of never meeting Leviathan's approval, and the reason for that is he was present when Kid Quantum was killed and
And
feels responsible.
this is when he was a lead. He was the leader for a brief bit, wasn't he?
I
Did
think
when
of
they,
that mission. I think it was the
yeah, that
mission.
mission, he's in charge and he's got post-traumatic stress and survivor guilt. It's a good
Yeah,
story arc. I mean, I do like I did remember that, and I do like that. I
Yeah.
also like that this Starboy's he's a little sunnier than say the original was. I don't think the original was anything else, but he was the original was a little more, we talked about, he was more tied to Stargirl at times. And, he had his tragic moment. He gets kicked out because he accidentally kills somebody, but he
Yep.
comes back.
Well, none of that happens to this
This guy,
stuff.
so this guy's a
None of
little
that
more,
happens.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's
So
a different history. And he turns up with a broken arm, which I think is quite an interesting introduction. And he talks about having a space cruiser accident on the way to Legion headquarters. And interestingly, we don't find out about that for years. So they actually come back and address that in a future comic, but we don't find out much about that for years. He mentions that he's got the ability to transfer mass from the stars to anything he wants just by pointing at it. So that sort of.
were they trying? Is that because the original Starboy, he just made things heavy. He
Yeah,
increased mass, but they didn't say where he got the mass from. So is this just?
I
I
think
like.
kind of explaining that really. And so
Yeah,
this is
let's give a
1996
science
now.
reason for.
So this is all before Jack Knight's series. So we're in 1996. This is happening, and he had this accident on the way to Earth, and that was covered in a later comic, which is a really good Starboy issue, actually. Legends of the Legion #4, which came out in May 1998. 98. And interestingly, though, it's got a slightly different origin there. It says that he unwittingly ingests space whale meat, which gives him vision powers, flight, strength, and invulnerability. And that harkens back to the original Silver Age Starboy, who sort of had Superman's powers, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we get to see his origin there. A few things to note: that he was a member of a team called the Uncanny Amazers on the planet Xanthu, where he's from. And the other members were Atmos, Kid Quantum, Monstrous, Radion, and Insect Queen. And she's an interesting addition because Insect Queen was traditionally Lana Lang.
Yeah, I forgot about her. This new version of her.
Yeah. So he's he goes from having these gravity powers, but also super speed, flight, and invulnerability, and electric vision. Remember, was the power he had that Superman didn't have.
Yeah, which was he shot electricity out of his eyeballs.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, he does end up joining as Kid Quantum's sort of replacement. And that's back in 1986, all that happens. And interestingly, the next appearance of Starboy is a really interesting one. It was linked into the Kingdom Come series in a very obscure way. So one of the things that was released with the Kingdom Come series were some Skybox trading cards called Kingdom Come Extra.
Okay.
And they were released in August 1996. And Starman 7, I think the numbering is interesting here, Ross, too, because probably doesn't agree with the numbering in the Secret Files and Origins that we looked at recently.
No,
yeah, I don't know what number he was given in that.
Wait, I'm trying to do it in that Ted 51, Disco, Prince Gavin, Danny, Jack. No, he'd be 7.
I think he's
if there's no one in between. Yeah, he'd be 7. Jack is 6.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
There you are.
Did I? No, I forgot David. Wait a minute. I think I forgot. 1, 2, 3, 4. I wait a minute. That is wrong. Ted 51. Michael, Gavin, Danny, David. No, Jack is 7.
We got Will. You didn't say Will that time.
Well, no, I did. I just didn't say it out loud. Yeah. So
Okay.
Jack is 7, unless they're not counting 51 and 6.
Oh, man, at that point.
So
anyway, on the back of the card, it's got some text, and it's not really it's not like a character bio, but it says from Alex Ross. It says, "In my original conception, he's the adult Starboy, transplanted from the 30th century." So that would be the reboot Starboy at this point.
yeah.
It also says, "Silent, aloof. Is he Jack Knight or someone else? Is he the heir to the Starman mantle? How come Star Spangled Kid has the cosmic rod now. Alex was clearly inspired by the costume of the Legionnaire called Starboy, but he took it to an awe-inspiring extreme, and that was all written by Mark Waid. And so we've got Ross saying Starboy, Waid saying Jack Knight in the future. And what we do get is this original sort of Starfield costume Starboy with a Starfield hood obscuring his face. And this image will become relevant as we sort of get deeper into the Starman Jack Knight series.
Yeah.
Just interesting that that appeared at this point. So this is, you know, we've got the reboot Starboy being published. We've got, I think, you know, this, even the timing of this and mentioning Jack Knight is a really interesting one. Given this came out in August 96, like Jack would have just been on the horizon, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
what date did did Starman Zero come out?
Starman Zero. Hold on a second. I'm gonna have to Google because I think it's 98.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So this is late 96, August 14, 96. So we had seen Jack Knight in was he in Zero Hour?
Yeah. Him and David. It's for their first appearances in issue 1.
Yeah.
That'd
be about the right timing then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because October 94 is the cover date. It came out August 23rd, 1994.
Okay.
Starman Zero. So about 2 months earlier.
So he'd existed. Oh, but this is 96. So no, it's a fair bit earlier. Okay. Cool. So yeah, and look, this we'll go back to the 31st century and our Starboy sort of in the post-Zero Hour reboot. He was a member of this team called the Amazers. And we see their first meeting in Legion of Superheroes 82. And they meet, and Starboy's been a member, hasn't really been a member. He's kind of been hanging out with the Legion and trying to get membership. But they weren't just accepting him. And Leviathan was sort of saying, no, we're not going to have another person from Xanthu. We can't afford to have you die, you know, sort of thing. But anyway, the Amazers try to get Starboy to come back to Xanthu, and we get to see a lot more of Kid Quantum 2, who's James Cullen's sister, Jasmine, as well. And we get to meet some of the other Amazers, Monstrous, who ends up joining the Legion.
Love her.
Yeah. Insect Queen. Yeah, she's a big giant sort of Green Hulk sort of figure with a very cute girly personality, which is kind of funny. That's kind of what sets her apart, I think, from the Hulk.
Yeah, I think that's why people like her so much, because she's still, you know, there's no angst. She's a very positive, bubbly kind of person. She just looks intimidating.
Yeah. And then we get this little encounter between Jasmine and Leviathan, who sort of he sort of realizes that this is the sister and feels rather guilty. And anyway, she challenges the Legion to a match. They have this sort of battle together. She ends up defeating them all, but Starboy sort of holds his own. And so Mon-El decides to induct him into the Legion. So he joins the Legion, which is kind of cool. He's kind of a bit Ross from here. There's a bit of a gap here I won't talk about very much, but he kind of resumes that powerhouse sort of figure in the Legion for a lot of their adventures. He's on panel, he's kicking butt and sort of throwing his gravity powers around, but he doesn't get a lot of airtime for a while until we sort of see these Amazers again. And so there's a big battle with Mordru the Magician, and one of the Amazers, Adam X, is killed, and Monstrous joins the Legion. And then we find out later that this Adam X character merges with another character called Blast Off and becomes the new Wildfire in the Legion. Again, yep. And so now we've got a few of these Amazers have joined the Legion. And then Starboy and Monstrous go for a trip back to Xanthu in Legion 101 to 103 and Legionnaires 60. And this is sort of in 1997. And we get a nice little story set there. Slightly different artist. So it's kind of a bit cartoony, this Starboy. I kind of like the way they draw him actually in this. It has a nice interaction with the monstrous character, who's kind of hitting on him. It's almost like she's hitting on him, which is kind of funny because she's gigantic and he's a skinny little boy. And we have this relationship with Atmos, who was a character from the Legion, who was the one that originally cheated on Dream Girl. I think you might remember us talking about this character.
Oh yeah, but the Paul the from the Levitz era, he was
Yep.
that. What
The
does
one
he
with no
first appear in
armpit.
the Universo project? First time we meet him.
Yeah, he played a big role in that, and he was mind controlling Dream Girl, and yeah, not a very nice, not a very nice character, but they seem to be friends here, so they kind of react a bit, and anyway, they kind of patch things up with Kid Quantum 2, and Starboy invites her to join the Legion. So now we're up to 3 Amazers in the Legion. They have a flight back in a cruiser, one of the Legion cruisers, back to Earth, and then they get attacked by the Khunds. We get to see Starboy using his vision powers, which is a bit unusual. His X-ray vision, sort of back. His powers are a bit unreliable. They kind of come and go. Seems to be a bit as writers want them to be. So he doesn't always have these gravity powers, although he mostly has the gravity powers. They all come back to Earth. Kid Quantum's welcome to the team and gets her Legion flight ring and her belt. And they sort of stand in front of the statue of her dead brother, and she sort of reminisces. So yeah, it's kind of nice. And they form this little trio within the Legion. So the Xanthu planet is important, and it's going to become important too to Jack Knight. So there's kind of a reason I'm talking about the fact we keep going back there.
Yeah.
There's another sort of issue with Xanthu. All the planets in the future are part of this federation called the United Planets, and they decide to withdraw in Legionnaires number 65. And our 3 Amazers are ordered to go home. Monstrous, Starboy, and Kid Quantum are ordered to go home, but they don't comply. They refuse to return. Which is kind of cool. I think it's good. This Starboy's got a bit of, I don't know, we'd say in Australia, a bit of spunk to him, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and their friendship is played up a lot, these 3, which is kind of cool. The next appearance is 1998. The next sort of major thing probably worth talking about is we get a Secret Files issue of Legion of Superheroes. This is Secret Files number 1 in January 98, and Starboy gets a profile page in this, very similar to the ones we saw in the Starman, Secret Files and Origins. And it sort of mentions both his historic appearance in Adventure Comics 282 and his current one, which was Legionnaires 0, as I mentioned. And there's just a bit of a recap of his origin, and we're told that he's dating Dreamer. Now, Dreamer is the reboot analogy of Dream Girl, but she's not a member. She's actually a rejected applicant to the Legion. So another change to this future.
Does she ever get in?
I think she does eventually. Yes,
Okay.
She does eventually get in as well. So that's kind of interesting. A big group of the Legionnaires go back in time to the 21st century and get involved in the Final Night storyline, where Green Lantern sort of has to save the world from the Sun Eater.
Yeah, redeem himself.
Redeem himself. We get to meet the new Pharaoh, who's sort of the new Pharaoh lad who tries to sacrifice himself to save the sun, but ends up getting stopped by Hal Jordan, who sacrifices himself instead. And Starboy goes back to help rescue the Legionnaires from the past. They have a big battle with a Computo triad, who's like a triplicate girl mixed with Computo.
Forgot about that. That's such a good.
Yeah, he does something unusual with his powers, and he transmutes the armor of this computer monster, which is an unusual power. We don't usually see that. He tries to welcome Gates back to the future, and Gates ignores him. On the last page of that issue, it's issue 100 of the Legion of Superheroes, big anniversary issue. He's seen flying in a very traditional Legion flyby in Metropolis, and he's holding the Legion flag. An image we'll get to see again with him. He seems to be the flag bearer quite a bit. His next major appearance, is actually the one we covered previously, which is in the Starman Secret Files and Origins. Which is in the timeline at the back of the issue, where it says, while in space, Jack encounters Starboy from the 30th century. They agree that if Jack should ever cease to be Starman, Starboy will take over the mantle in the present era. And sort of that will lead into Starman issue 49, which has a cover date of January 99, which you haven't covered yet, I believe. And he finally meets Starboy, as mentioned in the timeline. So you're getting to that, which is kind of why we're doing this episode, to sort of give a bit of a prelude to it. And it is the reboot Starboy that he meets in that issue. And we won't talk more about that issue because I know you're going to cover that. But that issue wraps up and leads into issue 50 as well, which has a big focus on both Starboy and Xanthu, along with some other things. And then in an unexplained way, Starboy is back in the 31st century or 30th century, and his adventures continue. And this is where the Jack Knight series and the Legion series kind of diverge a bit. Hard to know how they're going to overlap, or if they overlap, or at what time this Starboy disappears to appear in Starman. That said, the Starman issue is set in the future, so it is a future story. So we sort of heading back to the 30th century. The Amazers are sort of around still. Atmos and Insect Queen are still members, but Xanthu gets attacked. And this was a really big storyline in Legion. It was a bit of a changing. The reboot Legion was often called the Archie Legion because it was kind of a lighter, more juvenile sort of take on the Legion of Superheroes, which had become very adult and grim and gritty in the 5 years later period. So it was kind of understandable that they wanted to go back to the sort of teen sort of superhero club mentality. But that was all about to change again because the creative team, which had been the Moy brothers and several writers, were taken off the book, and Abnett and Lanning came onto the book. And they put together a really interesting story called Widening Rifts, which saw the Blight attacking the galaxy. And the Blight are a bit, they remind me of that, I can never think of the name of them, but that Marvel sort of alien species. Is it the Brood?
The Brood, the Brood.
Yeah, they're a bit like the Brood. They're the DC version of the Brood. Come in, and
they infect you and
infect the planets with plants and sort of creatures. And most of the metahumans are captured, and this includes Xanthu. So the Xanthuans sort of overcome it, but Starboy and Dreamer leave the Legion and go back to help the Amazers pick up the pieces. So it's kind of, we see Starboy taken off the table for a bit here. This is in February 2000 in Legion 124. So he kind of gets taken off the table, says goodbye to Livewire, the lightning lad analogy, and heads off to help them. And we don't see him again for quite a while, actually. We don't see him until late 2001, which is after probably one of the most famous Legion stories, Legion Lost. Have you read that one, Ross?
Oh, yeah. I like Legion Lost, except I liked it. I had just had some, it was kind of weird who they choose to kill and stuff like that. So I am one of those people who's on the fence on it. I they're fictional characters. Sometimes it's got to hurt. You know what I mean? You got to kill the person that most persons you don't think. So Monstrous, Um, I'm a big Element lad. Like
Yeah.
Element lad is my favorite Legionnaire, but it's really only the very first Element lad.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, this one
Alchemist
was a
is
bit
similar to
wishy-washy.
him.
Alchemist. Yeah, it was a bit wishy-washy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he wasn't as good as Jan, but Jan became that way because fans kept voting him leader or deputy leader, so you had to write him. And then Levitt just kind of leaned into it. I think a lot of Element Lad's personality is from the two Levitt's eras. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he plays a prominent thing in the Earth War, and that's Levitt's very first big Legion story. Um, but yeah, I like it. It's I Admiral Landing. They were brought in for a very specific thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they
They
have a lot of success for quite a while. They have
they
a really
do,
good
and
Legion, actually.
they're big parts of the Marv of when Keith Giffen was created the Annihilation thing in Marvel, which is to bring back the cosmic heroes.
Yeah.
Because Marvel used to do really well with their cosmic heroes. They sold, Captain Marvel was a popular, Adam Warlock, the Infinity Gauntlets, all that stuff was hugely popular, and it died out. And Abner Lanning wrote Warhammer novels.
Okay.
That's where they kind of come from, and some 2000 AD comics. And I don't know if they had done the Marvel stuff or they got the Marvel gig after doing what they did with Legion. Because
I think they had a lot of success with this.
it was popular. I remember I working in shops. Was I working at a comic shop when this was coming out? No, but I would go into it and it was selling, and people liked the Reboot Legion. It sold well for a while.
Yeah.
And
It
it was
was
the
one of the few
90s.
light books. We've talked about this on our podcast, the Legion of Substitute podcasters, but it was because it was lighter. It was in an era that DC was really dark. Like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
everything was grim and gritty. And the Legion was this book, particularly the Reboot version, was really light and fun and colorful and heroic. And it wasn't full of anti-heroes, whereas a lot of the other books were full of anti-heroes.
Yeah, it
This
was it.
on
Yeah.
Vertigo era.
Yeah. And and I get it. I think it's good to have those books. That's what kind of surprised me that they felt they needed to go grim and gritty with Legion, but Abner Lanning's compared to some of the other stuff that's being written is a little bit better.
Yeah.
I will say this, that it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but if you're looking at a 90s, there's a reason for the grim, the gritty. They're not, it's not just a lot of, like what was the Justice League one? Justice League Task Force Extreme or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I will skip that one, listeners.
yeah,
So
it
after
is.
this,
Yeah.
after this Legion Lost sort of grim and gritty series, they do defeat the bad guy. I won't spoil who that is, but they come back. The Lost Legionnaires are found, and things have happened in the meantime. Like the galaxy's kind of being destroyed by the Blight, and Starboy's still on Xanthu. And his story picks up in a series that's published after the Legion Lost 12-issue series, which is called Legion Worlds. And it's a 6-issue series that basically does a bit of a tour of the United Planets, but focuses in on 6 planets in particular. And this one it's issue 4, it focuses in on Xanthu. And on Xanthu, it's fallen to this other set of alien invaders. The universe being attacked by the Blight was bad, but then they got attacked by Robotica as well, which were kind of like nanobots and robotic creatures attacking planets. And so Xanthu fell early to Robotica, and it says the cybernetic commune invaders destroyed Xanthu. The Amazers, joined by Dreamer, XS, and the Khunds, managed to keep Robotica at bay long enough for its people to be transported off planet. The Amazers and Dreamer accompanied the 8 million refugees to safety inside Kundia. But XS and Starboy, and this is quite a dramatic scene, Ross, XS and Starboy don't make it on the escape ship. They're actually trying to stop the robots who are trying to kill the 8 million refugees.
Yeah, and they get left behind.
And they get left behind, and it's rather a tragic little scene. This story was written by Abnett and Lanning. It's got Duncan Rouleau on pencils, and really nice art.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
he draws really good robots. As an issue, I think it's a terrific standalone issue. Great scenes with Starboy sort of lifting heavy objects, Excess running around. She's got a really cool costume with a sort of a visor and knee pads, which is kind of cool. And yeah, there's this sort of tragic scene where Dreamer heads off with all the Xanthuans and the Kuns. And then they're standing in the middle of this field, and all the robots that have been attacking are just emerging, and there are millions of them all around them. And you see the spaceship sort of flying off, and it pulls back just sort of into space, and they're just a dot on the ground surrounded by millions of robots. And we're like, oh my God, what's going to happen to Excess
Yeah.
and yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Well, and I won't talk about his next appearance, but his next appearance is actually in the Jack Knight series. So in 2001, he appears and he's mentioned, let's say.
You mentioned, yes, and
He's mentioned, and this is all going to lead into the finale, so I'm not going to spoil any of that.
yeah,
But
it's some good stuff. It is.
it's cool.
It's all very interconnected with Opal. It's really, I think, more so than with Jack. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Because of the thing we're not telling you about is tied to Jack, but it's not Jack centric.
exactly.
And
It's clever. Robinson does this so well of pulling together all these bits of history, and he understood the Legion, he understood Kingdom Come, and he kind of pulled it all together. I think it's an art.
It's as I'm rereading, I've hit that spot where it's a lot of times past. Tony's leaving, and so you'll have a times past, then a Tony issue, then a times past, and then Tony's last issue, and then into space.
Yep.
So to get to that, I remember when I was reading that Robinson he really, when Jack goes into space, it's a very long arc, but I think it's needed because it really opens it up to where the Starman legacy is bigger than Opal City.
Yep.
But it all circles back to Opal City at the end and is tied in a bow. And
it's such a classic hero's journey, isn't it? It's
it is so well done.
Dragon.
I'm a big I hope I always Sandberg Schneid. I could yeah, the artist who takes over from Tony. It's the art's so much different, but it works. You know what I mean? It's kind of like I like that he did the space arc.
Yeah.
Because it really had the flair, because you get to see every Silver Age space hero, whether you wanted to or not, because you do get to see space. Everybody's in it. Space Taxi, they're all in it. And then he adds a little more, and it's just wonderful. And it all comes back to Opal, and then it all folds back into Jack.
I'm really looking forward to you recording it, Ross, actually. And I'm a big fan of the spaceship.
I know. It's just been
Art Nouveau style spaceship. It's very Flash Gordon, very Time Machine, H.G. Wells.
Jules Verne. It's like, because when Shade delivers it, you're kind of like going, okay, Shade, are you going to name drop Jules Verne? Or Captain Nemo or something? Nemo is real or something.
Yeah.
Because it is really good. I'm looking forward to do it. I'm already ahead because I've already recorded. Me and David did all the times pass as in one big sitting. And I just, as I'm still recovering from my foot surgery, there's some days I can't and work and stuff. So I'm got a lot of stuff ready to be edited, and then I'm going to deep dive in the space stuff. I'm excited about it.
Yeah,
excited about it because it is a good arc, and I've read. This is the stuff I may have only read once or twice. I think I'm not and I'm not reading ahead as not to spoil, the reread.
That's so good. That's so good.
It is that, yeah. So I'm getting to do it anew. But this Starman, we were talking earlier. I really like the reboot Legion because in my opinion, we're getting Legion back. I'm optimistic because I do like the writer a great deal. What I've read of
Yep.
his, I've enjoyed. He doesn't overthink it. He doesn't, and his stuff's not so decompressed to where
You're
you
talking
take
about Joshua Williamson.
Joshua Williamson. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a big Jeff Lemire fan, and even I agree some of his Justice Society stuff is a little too decompressed.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff could take in an issue and not three issues. Uh, but Williamson's, I like and he understands writing a family book because he just did it with the Flash. Read a little of his Flash, but his Green Arrow was really, really good. I thought it was really, really good. It was the first thing I read when it came out, when it was coming out. So I'm optimistic, but what Reboot Legion got right was to start over.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you may have had 5 or 6 team members really early on, but you get that story with Starboy losing somebody on a mission early on. So, which is big about Legion is that they do die.
Yeah, things are consequential. And the group editor that I was listening to from the Superman books, he was on the Long Live the Legion podcast recently, and he was saying that it's got to be consequential. If it's not consequential, why are we doing it? It's just publishing it for the sake of publishing it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping. So maybe they do it right,
Yeah.
and we get to see the origin. What we were talking about, Williamson is using, Superboy Prime. I would,
This is my guess that he's going to be the
yeah.
Superboy, but we'll see. We'll see.
There are enough Superboys to go around.
There are
Yeah,
probably too many, I would say, at the moment. It's
there
a bit
are
like Kid Flashes. There's too many of them too.
Yeah, so I would really like to see younger John. I'm biased toward younger John go because he'd be the right age.
Yeah.
And like that, but because they brought back Cal as Superboy.
Yeah.
In action, and I've really enjoyed that a great deal because
that was kind of the hint, was that he was going to be the Superboy. So whether we get him or we get
so I would like
Boy
it because I
Prime
also
or another Superboy.
Yeah, because I do like that Williamson has written into it that Superman's aware of that sometimes he goes to the future and it's not the same because something's happened that's caused the history to change. And since he lives in the past, he's, he may be going to timelines might change on him. And that, and that changes to the timeline travel backwards because that's what happened. Booster goes to the future and his Legion ring turns to an Omega ring.
Yeah.
And it's like, because Darkseid's, he's created a new universe and he's bending it to his will or shaping it in the way he sees.
The new history of the DCU?
I have not read the 4th issue yet. No.
Okay. Well, issue 4 has in the timeline at the back, particularly, a lot to say about the 4 versions of the Legion that we've seen previously. So
good. That's good.
There's some hints. There's some hints in there.
Yeah, well, we could. I've heard Bendis is coming back to Marvel, and it made me shudder.
I don't think it's going to be Bendis. I think that's unlikely.
No. Bendis, no, please, no more Bendis Legion. It was so. It was not consequential. It was inconsequential.
Yeah,
it was just
I'm going to take us back to Starboy because it gets a bit timey-wimey here. So
it does.
Starboy in his future, basically, meets Jack Knight at some point. But there's more to his story, which is actually published, his earlier story, which is published after the Jack Knight series wraps. So I'm going to just sort of talk us through that a bit because this stuff has an end in a way as well. So the Legion head to Xanthu to rescue XS and Starboy, and they do. They're very excited to see them. Starboy's kind of, pretty upset about sort of what happened. Tries to use his gravity powers, but there's something going on with his powers, which we don't find out for quite a little while yet. they sort of capture some robots. They have a battle against Ra's al Ghul in the Abnett Lanning Legion, which was kind of a cool plot point. I really like it when they have these sort of characters that are immortal showing up in the future. Like they had
I
Rosen
liked
Full
in that this
up in the
Ra's al
Bendis. That
Ghul.
was
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I like this because, like, how they did, like Levitz did with Darkseid.
Yep.
Folks, before there was an internet, it was really great because stuff wouldn't get spoiled. And if you were reading Legion of Superheroes when the Great Darkness Saga came out, and the reveal comes in the form of the Daxamites turning their own planet into a bust of Darkseid's head, it kind of blew your mind. And I liked it in this one that they did it differently. It makes sense that Ra's al Ghul is still around.
Yeah, it's
It
kind of
makes
cool.
perfect sense.
There's this great scene in the Legion. The book becomes called the Legion. And in May 2003, in Legion 18, Ra's al Ghul actually punches Starboy, who's trying to attack him, and steals his flight ring and flies off with it. Doesn't last very long, though, because the Legion can actually track the flight ring, so he takes it off. But Starboy's been defeated. Excess and the Amazers are busy terraforming Xanthu and restoring it back to a planet that people can live on. Then later in the Legion 21, we get a new artist. Chris Batista comes on to draw
it's some pretty art.
Opal had been doing the earlier stuff. Opal's stuff's great. Batista's stuff's also great. Very different styles. Certainly moves away from that dark and gritty with Batista, which I think was kind of on purpose. So Starboy's having these power losses, and he decides to go and face Darkseid, and attacks Darkseid, who, as you've mentioned previously, is still around in the 31st century. This is not a very good idea. Because he does, his powers fail, and he opens a giant black hole and starts sucking everything into it. And Kid Quantum has to stop it, which she just manages to do. He sort of ends up blaming Darkseid for setting off his powers in the wrong way. And we get a scene with him and Dreamer. And I kind of like that he and Dreamer are still partners in this version of the Legion. He doesn't get a new sort of love interest, even though Monstrous has got a crush on him. They never become a couple, but Dreamer is still around. She sort of says that it's an ominous, she sees their end and she predicts the future. Then we get a really interesting, I was hearing Chris Batista talk about this recently. We get a really interesting time where they bring Superboy back to the Legion in this version of the Legion.
Yeah, it's Connell, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Connor Kent, and he wears the traditional Superboy costume, which I really like. The only time he really wears it, but he's got a Legion belt buckle.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. They have the fight with Darkseid and end up defeating him in the end. And then we get this really odd thing, which Batista and the Abnett and Lanning get thrown off the book right at the end of the run. And there's only four.
So I don't know this history. I just know that they
basically
Gail Simone. I've never read the Gail Simone stuff, and I'm a big.
So Gail Simone and Jurgens come in and do 4 issues.
Okay.
And it's just a 4-issue arc. It's not a very good story. I think it's called Dream War or something like that. And we get a tiny appearance by Starboy in it, wearing a slightly new costume. Doesn't do very much in terms of the storyline. And that's kind of his last appearance. And Batista was sort of saying he was really gutted at the time because they were actually selling really well. And what they didn't know was that Wade and Kitson were about to reboot the Legion. And so this all leads into the Teen Titans Legion special.
That's a great series. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's good. And we get to see that comes out in November 2004. The Titans are transported to the future. They battle the Fatal 500, which is multiple versions of the Fatal 5. Sort of the Emerald Empress and Persuader and Tharok and Mano and Validus. Yeah, and what ends up happening is they all get trapped in a space sort of limbo between dimensions. They've got no way out. But the Teen Titans and just one Legionnaire, Shikari, and Shikari's the reboot version of Dawnstar. And she was never called Dawnstar, but she was designed to be their version of Dawnstar.
Yeah, I liked her as a character. I like that.
Yeah.
I liked that the reboot had more non-humanoid members.
Yes.
Yeah. Some of it may not. So I like Sensor. I didn't have a problem with Sensor being a snake. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't mind that either. And when they make her a little bit more humanoid later, it kind of works too. But yeah, I don't mind Shikari. I like her armored look when her face mask sort of comes down, her visor comes down over her face.
Oh yeah,
she's kind of kick-ass more than
that Legion Lost group were a pretty good team. They picked really good characters to send through to put in that journey, and then bring her in and bring in a new character. So
yeah, and it made sense that they met her out in space in some other part of the galaxy. That she wasn't just part of the criticism was the Grell Dawnstar was a Native American Indian, and it was just a little bit stereotypical. And I think they were trying to get away from that too, and just because they already had this reputation of sending all the African Americans off to an island in another dimension, and then they'd send all the Indians off to another planet, and so it's kind of like not good.
It's not.
That's why they were redoing it. Made sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, they all get sucked into limbo. There's this very famous image of everything fading to white for them, and they're basically all holding hands in a giant L shape, which was kind of clever, which looks like the Legion logo. And look, only Shikari escapes. So Starboy gets sucked into limbo. Shikari escapes, but she doesn't go with the Titans back to our Earth. She ends up on the Reboot Earth. And she emerges on a strange Earth where teenagers long for freedom in a world controlled by the public service network, a world where teens are looked down upon by adults. So just kind of interesting where all that goes. And we do see the reboot characters again in a book called Final Crisis: Legion of Three Worlds. Starboy makes almost no appearances in it. He's in a big sort of entry scene where they all come flying in around the crystal ball that the JSA and JLA use to transport themselves between the Earths. So in they fly. We see Starboy then, and we see him at the end leaving on the cosmic treadmill. But he doesn't do much else in it. So the reboot Starboy doesn't get a big appearance. The retro boot Starboy, however, does plays quite a significant role in the story. It's not his greatest moment. And then obviously some point in the future ends up on the planet Xanthu to meet Starman Jack Knight, which is coming up in Space Journey. So kind of interesting. I like this version of Starboy.
I do. I like this version of Legion. I think it's it holds up. I think it holds up great. And I think they took the best elements of all the characters when they kind of reintroduced them.
Yeah.
So, and I like that this Starboy is a little more the other Starboy is positive, but he was also, I don't know if it was what I liked about what made it refreshing is that, when Grell and Cockrum took over, they definitely aged the kids up a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's kind of like they're not 15, they're 18 or 19. Or, and then as you got to like Levitts, they're adults. They're not kids anymore.
Yeah, they were having children. That's right.
Yeah. But they were bringing in another generation that there would be more, but it was nice to see them the Archie Legion it's a good way to describe the early part of the reboot, I think, in a lot of ways. Because it is, it's light, it's fun, but it's got all the things that make a good comic series work, which is, the soap opera bit. the interperson, the relationships are earned. Like you're saying, Monstrous and him become, their friend, the three kids from Xanthu. It's there's more to it
You'd
than
expect that,
just.
right? It's like those three kids who go to the local high school from the local elementary school, and they stick together.
Yeah,
They're that. Yeah.
yeah, and it makes sense, and that um it just works, and I really like they're three of my well, I really do become a big Kid Quantum, the second one. I'm a
Oh,
big.
she's kick ass in the
She
Legion
is
series.
really good.
She's really good.
When
I
she
think
becomes leader,
I
you're like, oh, it's about time.
Yeah. Look, and we do see the reboot characters again after their series wraps, and the Final Crisis, Legion of Three Worlds. And the place we see them is actually quite recent. We see them in Superman 28, 29, and 30. They are back, Ross.
Yeah.
So we now have the Legions of Four Worlds. We have the Classic Legion, which are also called the Retro Boot, because
Yeah.
John brought them back in the Superman and the Legion book. We also have the Reboot, and we have the Three Boot, which is a very different Starboy. One I quite, he's probably one of my favorites, actually. And we have the Rebirth Legion, which is Bendis's Legion, in which Starboy does nothing.
Anything?
Well, he appears.
He appears. It's like
I
Element
don't
Lad. It
think
looks like.
I don't think he has a line, does he?
I don't
I,
know. I don't know.
I
I
don't think
was
he
so.
speaks. I don't think he speaks the whole time.
Well,
Got
it's
a
like
nice
I was
costume
like,
designed
okay,
by
what are you
Ryan
going to
Sook.
do with Element Lad? And they turned him into Brother Power the Geek.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's. I
Surfer
thought
dude.
Sook's designs were good. I had high hopes, and they were dashed almost immediately.
Yeah.
Because it's like sometimes when you hire big names, that sometimes they just show up and they don't. Oh, here's my idea, but it's not enough of an idea to get you through 12 issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a problem. If you're doing a book, I please have a plan.
Well,
Um,
yeah, from what I've heard, I think Williamson does have a plan. And
I can
hopefully
assume he does. His
he
writing
knows
is
what he's
pretty
doing. He
tight.
loves the Legion, apparently. So did Bendis, though. So
Yeah,
that
but
comment.
I did Bendis. I don't think Bendis had read it in 30 years.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
know. No, our podcast, Legion of Substitute Podcasters, did interview him, and
oh, okay.
he was clearly a Legion fan. There's no question that
He
that
knew
is the
his
book
stuff.
he
Good. That's
wanted
good to
because
know.
he was a fan. But I don't think he handled the big team myself particularly well. I think if it had been a smaller team, he might have been okay. I
Yeah.
think
I mean,
challenged by a big team.
I bust chops about him, but I do like his Avengers run. My thing is sometimes he really decompresses stuff, and he
Yeah.
he does when he was doing Avengers, he had a lot. All the big events had a lot of little move issues that really didn't move plot along.
Yeah.
Um, and he has some ticks as a writer that sometimes it's like we're doing that again. But he understands the characters because I mean what he did with the Avengers was good by totally tearing it down and rebuilding it.
Yeah.
And with and the main arcs were really good. And he used a good. I mean, I'm an Avenger fan, like I'm a Legion fan, and like right now, it's same 8 or 9 characters, and they're not very interesting. Um, but I mean, who knows? I mean, I'd had high hopes for Bendis's, and it's my big complaint is if you're going to redo it, start at the beginning. Don't jump. Because I think for me, the Three Boot, I had problems reading it because of that. When I went and read it after I met Jim from Long Live Legion, and we had talked, I went and he did a couple episodes about the reboot because I hadn't given it a chance, and I read it and I really have enjoyed it. I'm up into the Supergirl era, and I've paused, but I need to go back and
Oh,
finish
that's
it.
reboot. Yeah.
Yeah, because the Supergirl stuff I'm really enjoying.
It's we've just finished actually. We recorded our last episode yesterday. And it's a good series. Derek and I actually said we enjoyed the the shooter maniple stuff, and we didn't have great memories of that period. But
But
on a
isn't
reboot,
that the one where it's all the bad guys are the descendants of the Justice League?
no,
Oh, that's something else. Okay.
yeah, no, it's not that. It's they're sort of fighting these alien invaders. It's different. It's kind of there's quite a lot of comedy in it, actually, the shooter stuff. So
No,
yeah, we
I'm
enjoyed it
gonna.
more than we thought we would, and it's a good reread to read the whole thing uninterrupted. And it suffered as a series because Johns was bringing back the original Legion at the same time, and so it was very confusing because there were two Legions being published simultaneously, and we also had the animated series coming out at the same time. So it was a bit of a weird period for the Legion.
Yeah.
But looking forward to the future. I'm hopeful. It's very different. I was thinking about something you just said then about the number of characters. I think that's why I like Jack Knight's Starman. Like, I love all the characters in Legion, but I love Starman because it really focuses in on that family unit. And
Mhm.
I think it's the smallness of it, the intimacy of that I like, because you really do find out a lot about all of the characters in it and their motivations and their interactions, and that scene we discussed between Sadie and Ted was great. Where she's kind of
Yeah.
meeting her boyfriend's father. I was just like, this is so cool. This is so human.
They're very real earned moments. Sometimes, you have to put a character into a situation because you need him to be, you need to tear him down to build him back up, you know. Conflicts. And Jack, and I said, I try to explain why I like Starman to non-comic readers. It's because it's the great hero's journey. He doesn't want to be a hero. He has to be a hero. He becomes the hero. Then he has the hero's journey and then has to decide if that is really his destiny. And that's the big picture of Jack, but it's also a father and son coming to having to reevaluate their relationships as fathers and sons do. He falls in love, he makes all these friends, and he builds this family unit. And
Well,
everybody gets a moment to shine. No one is ever really left in the cold.
no, and Thom Kallor is going to play a role in that.
Yeah.
And his destiny will cross over into all of that, which is kind of cool. But it's been fun discussing Thom Kallor. I've really enjoyed building through these three episodes we've done, Ross, a bit of an expertise. I've become known as the Starboy guy
That's a
in
good
our
thing.
podcasting group. So any Starboy questions come my way. The next bit's a bit more complicated. The next dive for me is to look at Kingdom Come, Starman, and also jump into the JSA version of Starman.
I do love him. Have you seen the JLA Justice League versus the Fatal Five cartoon with Starboy in it?
I have a copy of it.
But
I'm
you
not
haven't
sure if I've
watched it.
watched it. I'm not
Have
sure if
you
I've
watched
watched
it?
it. I don't think so. I've heard it's
It's
good.
really good. It's really
Yeah.
true. It's Jessica Cruz and him are it's really their story because she's got a Green Lantern ring, but she's agoraphobic. But that's kind of her tick with the thing about fear is she has a phobia, but she's also Green Lantern, so she has to go out into the world and fight the bad guys. And um, they really play the mental health thing with Tom.
Which is good.
Yeah, which
Because
is good. I mean,
part of who that character is, and the funny thing is, we all know, all of us sitting here in Earth Prime reading comic books, we know that he's not actually mad, but he certainly appears mad.
yeah, they handle it. He goes to a pharmacy naked to
Yeah,
get the drugs, and they haven't been invented yet.
yeah,
And it's a really good. It's a lineup of the Justice League that I would buy if they made it because
yeah,
it's them, Superman, Batman, and Mr. Terrific.
yeah.
It's a good cartoon. It's one of the ones that I got it just to have it because I'm a Star Boy nut, but it was like, oh wow, this is actually really good.
Yeah, I've got to have them all. I'm a bit of a completionist when it comes to Legion.
Well,
So
I bought the three Japanese Starman movies.
yeah, no. Are you going to talk about those?
I want to find someone brave enough to watch one or two of them. They're
Okay.
really bad,
Right.
but they're neat. They're neat. It's just it's a very it's a Japanese sci-fi movie, so they're big on monsters in rubber suits. So
Yeah.
there's guys in rubber suits, but it's a
Okay.
1950 science fiction movie, and they're all really kind of the same in any country. I've been on a Quatermass kit. I I'm a big Quatermass fan, more so because I love Quatermass in the Pit, the third movie, third Hammer film, because I think it's one of my top 5 films of all time that I love that I can watch anytime. But I watched the first two, which are very 1950s, and they hold up better than I remember. But it's a clunky time of storytelling in that post-atomic world. They, um, it's just odd. They basically looks like a Japanese movie done by Doctor Who in the 60s.
Okay.
It's really cheap. But it's I my brother knew what I was talking about when I brought him up because he's like the movie nut. And I found them. They come in a box. You get a set and you get all 3 movies, and they're dubbed. So it's a little bad, but they're interesting. It's a Japan. It's different. It's closer to anime than it is to our science fiction.
Cool.
So, but they're interesting. So I am going to do them. I just would like to have someone else have seen it with me. I've watched the first one a couple times. I haven't watched the other ones because some of it's re-editing. They've chopped up something or other.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
cool.
odd. But yeah, I do want to do it. And I also want to get to Stargirl and some of the periphery stuff. I just got to get on a regular schedule. Um, and also record in advance a lot more than I have been able to. So it's
Yeah, that's good.
because that's why I haven't done many solo ones by myself. So, um,
Well, I've been enjoying listening. I've been listening in, and I've been enjoying sort of popping in and out a bit with some of the sort of Legion related stuff is always fun for me. And yeah, I look forward to seeing how it all evolves, Ross, as you work your way through the cosmic journey.
yeah, the great
Yeah.
space thing. I think you and me, I think other Starman fans are a fan of that. I know it's the longest arc. I was talking to, was I talking to, I was talking to Kirby and I thought Grand Guganol was the longer one. And he was like, oh, no, 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 it's the space arc. And then
Yeah.
I was looking ahead into the second compendium and I said, it's almost 60% of that volume.
Wow, yeah, cool.
It's
I have to buy
huge.
that second compendium. I only have the first compendium, so I need to get hold of that second one. I actually have the floppies of the second half of the series of
Yeah, and
this
the second compendium
first
has
half.
the 12 issue star shade mini at the end, maxi at the end, which I like that they did put that in there.
That's cool.
I've
Very.
been reading Spurrier's Flash and they brought shade in. I've just not been that impressed with Spurrier's Flash.
Mhm.
It's it
Yeah, I
just
had to read it because it's got Sadie in it, hasn't it? Is it Sadie or who's the Shade's girlfriend?
oh no, it's Hope.
Hope. Hope is in it. In
Yeah, and she's got
Yeah, yeah. It's
cancer.
it's you are going to have to talk about that Flash arc
I think I will, and I think
at some
mentioned
point.
it. It might have been pre something with Kirby or something, or me and David,
Yeah.
because that I liked. The one shot, the shade one, the that one issue, I liked that. The overall, I just found Spurrier's Flash just it wasn't up. I have a high standard for Wally because I was, it just sometimes it's just, I wanted to give I like Spurrier's writing. Other times I've read it. I just didn't think it's petered out.
I've gone off Flash. I actually liked Williamson's stuff that he was doing with Passer and the stuff Adams did, but then I kind of went off it when they
Yeah,
kind
I
of
want to read the Adams
rebooted
stuff.
it. I was like, I'm out. Diodato's art was not grabbing me. I'd rather
Yeah, it's
his
it's
80s art than what he's doing now.
I like the beginning of it, but they lost me. But I wanted to read it through, so I just sat down one Sunday and read the last few issues. It was okay. It wasn't great. It's just that didn't need to take as long as it did. And DC, I like what DC's doing. They're doing short runs of stuff. hedge your bets, be careful, because I think they're doing a much better job than Marvel is right now.
Yeah, well, their Superman stuff, the Legion stuff is selling. The Superman books went to second printings with the Legion of Darkseid in it, so
Yeah.
they're getting something
I had
right.
to
They're
buy them on. I had to buy them off of Amazon on my pad because I couldn't get them at my shop because they're not. I'm not on my pull
yeah,
list, and he doesn't buy. He doesn't order many extra.
yeah. So
I
that's
don't
good.
blame him.
That's a good sign.
It's all right. The app's fine. I'll get it a month after. I pay for the Ultra. You guys, I wish they'd make that worldwide because it's a good app.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. We have to use Kindle, so that's it.
I deal with Kindle but I don't like Amazon's cataloging of stuff.
No, it's very hard to find things.
All right. Well, thanks, Brett. Well, we're gonna have to plan a 3-boot one, and I think I need to finish reading. Maybe I'll put that on my top of my. I'd like to jump around. Um, and I've found this new love of Marvel and DC horror recently because I'd never really read bunch, and I got the DC finest horror. It's some freaking amazing stuff, and I read my Tomb of Dracula omnibus in like 2 weeks, which I don't normally read a book all the way through that quick. But I need to read the rest of the reboot stuff because I'm halfway through Supergirl.
Yeah, enjoy it. It's a fun little romp. It's fun and it's nice. A
I
bit like
read it.
Starman.
I've
Only
got
50
enjoyed it.
issues. It comes to an end. So
Yeah.
it's a too.
All right.
It's
Well,
been great. Thanks,
all
Russ.
right. We'll talk soon. And folks, as always, please be safe, be smart. Please be kind to one another. It's a crazy world. In the States, I'm going to vote. I live in a state, one of the 2 states is an off-year governor's thing. So yeah, I'm going to go. Everybody be kind to one another. We're a little tense over here and read some comics.